Greetings and salutations, everybody. My name is Andrew Kirchhoff, and welcome to my YouTube channel. Today, we're going to be talking about the Fantasy Football Week 2 injury news. Basically, I'm going to be going over 10 different scenarios that are going on in the National Football League right now that are going to, and hopefully won't completely destroy your fantasy team this weekend. We have 10 different players that are going to be out this week that I will kind of give you an idea how to adjust, who the backups are, and what you should do in your specific scenarios. So without further ado, let's get into that. But first, I want to thank everybody who have subscribed, liked, commented down below, shared with their friends. I know it's difficult to tell your friends about me. In fantasy football, we're all so competitive, and we all want to win, right? You want to win that, either the home league trophy, or you want to win that pot of money. But anything that you guys could do to share my videos with others, I know you guys enjoy it, and I know others will. So if you can go out, share it with your friends, family, anybody, I would greatly appreciate that. Everybody, how's it going? So the first people we want to talk about, right? Tevin Coleman and Devontae Freeman. So Devontae Freeman, last Thursday, well, not last Thursday, the original Thursday night game of Week 1. In the fourth quarter, had a knee injury, didn't play in the fourth quarter, and the entire situation revolved around Tevin Coleman and Devontae Freeman, splitting carries and series throughout the entire game. Coach Dan Quinn came out and said, "Oh, it's not a big deal. He's just sore. We'll hold him out of practice earlier in the week, and he'll be ready for Sunday." Right? And the problem was that's not the case. Devontae Freeman with this knee injury is out this week. There is no further news on whether he'll be ready for next week. But as of right now, if you do own Tevin Coleman and Devontae Freeman, you have that stack. Congratulations. You are going to inherit a lot of fantasy value this week. Now, how much fantasy value? Here are the statistics that I pulled from last season. In weeks 10, 11, and 12, Devontae Freeman was out. In that time, Tevin Coleman produced these numbers. Okay, he had 20 touches a game. Majority were just on the ground. Didn't really have too many targets within those games. But I think they'll, coming into Carolina with that stout run defense, they'll be forced to throw the ball to Tevin Coleman, which helps you in your PPR leagues. But other than that, on 20 touches per game in weeks 10, 11, and 12 of the 2017 season, Tevin Coleman was able to produce, in the first game, 88 total yards and 1 reception, 1 touchdown. Okay. In the second game, 58 total yards, 1 touchdown, and 1 reception. Okay. And in the last game, 97 total yards and 2 touchdowns. So in the 3 games that Devontae Freeman wasn't present, and it was Tevin Coleman to himself, he got 20 touches a game, and he had 4 touchdowns in the matter of 3 games. His yards, yes, they weren't great. Couldn't break 100, but it happens. You know what I mean? No big deal. Those touchdowns, though, they make the week that much sweeter. Tevin Coleman this week should be an absolute start for you. I know there will be many of you asking, where do you rank him? Should I start him over Jordan Howard? Should I start him over Lamar Miller? How about Deion Lewis? Just go down to the comment section. I'll be sure to get to you before tomorrow's games, and I'll be able to help you guys out there. So no problem. Just let me know if it's a PPR or a standard format scoring. If you guys could, that'd be really helpful. Okay, the next 2 people I want to talk about, Darren Sproles and Corey Clement. Darren Sproles is going to be out with a hamstring injury this week. Hamstring injuries are so extremely common in the National Football League. Almost everyone other than Freeman is going to, consist of a hamstring injury. And those, it's pretty ridiculous. Anyway, so Darren Sproles this coming week, completely out. But in week 1, also had played in that week, in the very first Thursday night game with Devontae Freeman and Tevin Coleman. Darren Sproles was a main contributor of the offense. He had played on many of the snaps, and which had caused Jay Ajayi to only play 27 of the 71 offensive snaps, which was terrible. Yet Ajayi was the main production fantasy-wise out of the backfield. This coming week against the Tampa Bay defense, I think Corey Clement, I had him as one of my hidden gems for this week. I think Corey Clement can be a sneaky pickup off the waivers and start into your flex position in a PPR league. Now, I know for a fact that the Eagles' offensive line, it's probably top-notch, top 2 offensive lines in the NFL, right? they want to run the ball, but obviously they're conservative in that nature that they're willing to do that little pass run, the ROP, the run pass option, right? So they'll put Corey Clement in, and with the success that Alvin Kamara had last week with 9 receptions for 112 receiving yards, I feel like the good coaches of Philadelphia Eagles should be able to pick apart what the Saints were, successful in, and just put Corey Clement in the best position to be successful this week. If Alvin Kamara could have done it, I understand Alvin Kamara is a better football player than Corey Clement, right? But Corey Clement has the ability, he has the opportunity this week, and I think he should be, a pretty good productive PPR running back in your flex this coming week. Completely out. Darren Sproles. I mean, it only took him one game and he was completely done. All right, the next two I want to talk about, Rex Burkhead and Sony Michel. Now, these two, we know Sony Michel didn't play in week 1, battled through injury with his knee. Burkhead in the preseason had a knee that was bugging him a little bit, but he had a concussion. He went through concussion protocol this week. And the way I see it, the last couple of days, these two have practiced, and they're looking like they're going to probably play. I mean, they're limited in practice, right? They can't fully practice. The way I see it, I think Sony Michel is going to be a game-time decision. He's going to warm up before the game. If he's ready to go, he'll go. Rex Burkhead will most likely play despite his concussion protocol that he went through. I'm pretty sure he's going to pass that. The main, benefactor of both of these injuries is James White. I mentioned him before in my last video. I think James White this week, coming off of that, 9 targets and 4 reception week with that touchdown against the Houston Texans last week. I think James White had more targets than Chris Hogan. He had more targets than Philip Dorsett, right? He is going to be a huge part of this New England Patriots offense. If you have James White on your bench, I would see, and maybe you're struggling whether you should start Breida or James White or Burkhead. I think James White this week, considering he's such a PPR monster, that he could be a really good flex play coming into week 2. So look out for that. All right, the next two I want to talk about, Marcus Mariota and Corey Davis. Now, Corey Davis is not injured, but Mariota is. And not only is Marcus Mariota injured, he has his little elbow injury that he sustained last week in the Dolphins game that took 6 hours long. Besides Mariota being injured, the right and left starting tackles for the Tennessee Titans, Taylor Lewan and Conklin. What's Conklin's first name? Was it Ryan Conklin? I don't know, but it's Conklin. They're both Pro Bowl offensive linemen. They're both in the NFL top 100s, right? When that comes out on NFL Network. These two guys are absolute monsters, and they're young too, right? So having them both out is going to be really detrimental to Marcus Mariota's pass protection. I think Mariota is going to get crushed by Clowney coming off the edge, J.J. Watt coming off the edge, Whitley Merciless coming off the edge. I am worried for this Tennessee Titans team. Now, head coach for the Tennessee Titans earlier this week was quoted to being said, "I wouldn't be surprised if Mariota and Blaine Gabbert play this week." What does that mean? Why would you say such a thing? Are you already saying you guys are going to lose, or are you saying Mariota is going to get hurt and get knocked out of the game again? Right? Those kind of passive aggressive remarks almost, they scare me. I don't want to start Mariota this week, and I'm not going to, right? Mariota, I'm not going to touch him. He's coming off that little elbow injury. The offensive line is in shambles, right? I mean, if your right and left tackle are both Pro Bowlers and they're both out against Watt and Clowney, I don't want to touch you. So where does that get us back to? Corey Davis. I'm a little worried about Corey Davis. I'm a little worried about Derrick Henry, Dion Lewis, Rashad Matthews. I'm worried, even Jonnu Smith. I'm worried about the potential of this Tennessee Titans team getting annihilated. I really am, against the team that is healthy and ready to score some points and play some defense. I'm just a little worried. So keep an eye out on that. Okay, so the next two I want to talk about, right? This is pretty easy, pretty common. Leonard Fournette, TJ Yeldon. Leonard Fournette is likely not going to play. He didn't practice a single time this week, and chances are when a guy doesn't practice at all, he's most likely going to be out on Sunday. even if Leonard Fournette is active for Sunday, I don't know if I can even trust him. Like, I always say you should play your studs. Leonard Fournette is a guy you would have drafted in the first or early second round. He's a guy that you should 100% send out there when healthy, but I don't even know if he's given the okay. I don't even know if he's going to be healthy this week. If, and hopefully, they say he's out, TJ Yeldon is the start. He's a flex play, and even he could be considered a good RB2 play, depending on what your roster is looking like. If you got hit with an injury bug, like with McKinnon or Mixon, well, actually Mixon already played, but you know what I mean. If you got hit with a bug like that, Yeldon can be an RB2 potentially this coming week. All right, the next two I want to talk about, right? It was on the thumbnail, Josh Gordon, right? Out this week with a hamstring. Oh, also Fournette is a hamstring injury. Man, these guys in their hamstrings. It's ridiculous. Anyway, I mean, it's common. It is what it is. Josh Gordon, surprisingly, is out this week. Now, this gives a 100% boost to Jarvis Landry, okay? That's not – I don't even have to say it, but I'm going to, right? Jarvis Landry should be starting on your team this week. If you play in a PPR, perfect. That's fantastic. Jarvis Landry has to start. Now, other than him, I think there's a potential for David Njoku to get a little bit of a boost this coming week. Let me see, how many targets did David Njoku have last week? I know he didn't perform well, right? That's an obvious. The weather may have been an issue, but I honestly think that David Njoku is not as bad as he played last week. Let's see what he had. 7 targets, okay? 3 receptions, and as I mentioned earlier this week, he had dropped 2 targets on back-to-back plays. It could have given him a little bit more fantasy value from last week, right? I think David Njoku is probably the main benefactor to this. Other than that, Rashad Higgins is going to get the wide receiver to start for the Browns. And Duke Johnson, if they get blown out early by the Saints, is going to have to come in and catch the ball a couple times here and there. So I see Josh Gordon being out as a huge boost to Jarvis Landry, David Njoku. If you play in a super deep league, or DFS, maybe Rashad Higgins might catch a touchdown this week, and a little bit of Duke Johnson here and there. Okay, now the next, here we go. Will Fuller, hamstring. DeAndre Hopkins, I don't even understand how, imagine if both of these two don't play, though. Like, let's just put that perspectively. If both of these guys, Will Fuller and DeAndre Hopkins, don't play, I don't understand how the Texans are going to have to score. But most likely, according to the head coach of the Texans, right, Will Fuller will play, right? And why wouldn't DeAndre Hopkins play? I think, yes, DeAndre Hopkins might be a little beat up. Let's see, where is this injury profile here? It's a foot injury. He's questionable. Will Fuller, we already know Will Fuller's a hamstring, game time decision. I think Will Fuller will play this week. And I think DeAndre Hopkins will play this week. Now, let's say, for example, tomorrow morning you wake up and you check your phone and it says DeAndre Hopkins or Will Fuller has been opted to out. They're not playing this week. The main benefactor for these two would probably be Bruce Ellington for the Texans. As soon as Will Fuller was out last week, boom. His production went up. His targets were like 8 targets, 5 receptions. He had a touchdown, 50-some-odd yards. He looked good, right? But if these two play, Deshaun Watson, full steam ahead, go for it. But I think, hopefully, they'll be healthy for this week. I would probably say just keep an eye on them because you never know with Will Fuller, especially because he's just always injury prone. Now, the next two, Kenny Stills and Devontae Parker, right? So Devontae Parker's been dealing with a broken finger on his right hand, if I'm not mistaken, last couple weeks, early preseason. And he practiced last week, wasn't cleared for the game. He practiced this week, yet he was still put on that questionable. They gave him the questionable tag. The way I see it, I don't think it's going to hurt Kenny Stills, right? Kenny Stills is most likely going to play a little bit of outside receiver. They're going to put him in the slot on specific packages. He's going to be the Jarvis Landry of this team. Okay, they're missing Jarvis Landry. Yes, if Devontae Parker shows up, it may hurt the value of Kenny Stills, But ultimately, I think Kenny Stills and Ryan Tannehill have that rapport. I think they're going to be successful together. I wouldn't be too worried about Kenny Stills' production dipping due to the presence of Devontae Parker this coming week. I think Parker, yes, he's a red zone threat. He's a bigger target, but I don't believe in the hype of Devontae Parker. I'm not a huge fan of him. I think he's besides his broken finger, he was injury prone last season, and I don't buy into it. I like Kenny Stills way more. And even with Parker, present, I like Kenny Stills. So, last couple, okay? Marcus Goodwin's out, right? That, whatever they determined it, I don't even know what the injury was. I honestly probably should know this. Let's see here. Where are we at on this? Nope, that's not Marcus Goodwin. Marquise. Somebody in the comments, I think a couple days ago, was roasting me for saying Marcus. I don't know why. I just like saying Marcus instead of Marquise. It rolls off the tongue better for me. So I'll continue to say Marquise. You ready? Here we go. Marquise. So Marquise Goodwin, where are we at on his injury? So according to the latest report, Marquise Goodwin, who has a quad injury. Okay, I mean, he went down the block last week, like a crack block out of the slot, and then his knee got completely shellacked and he was done, right? Didn't come back into the game and finished, right? The main benefactor, obviously George Kittle, right? He showed it last week, 9 targets, if I'm not mistaken, 5 receptions, good amount of yards. George Kittle, main benefactor. Other than him, Pierre Garçon has a potential, even though I don't believe in old man Pierre Garçon anymore. Dante Pettis out of Washington, the rookie, is a pretty good talent. He scored a touchdown last week. Yes, that could have been a fluke, but to be honest, any sort of confidence boost to Jimmy Garoppolo will, have him throwing it back to Dante Pettis. If you play in a deeper league, there's a potential you could start him, but I wouldn't completely buy into that. I know that this Lions defense that they're going to go against isn't the best. They did not show up last Monday, and they didn't look great at all. They're coming off of a short week in which they need to just shake that off of themselves. I don't know if they're going to be able to do that. Jimmy Garoppolo and this Kyle Shanahan offense will be coming after them, and hopefully scoring some fantasy points. Also, they might even run the ball. There's a potential that Breida and Morris just start taking over because Bilal Powell and Isaiah Crowell were able to do so last week. Anyway, the last piece of news I want to talk about before I let y'all go, Joe Mixon and Giovanni Bernard. Joe Mixon went and had arthroscopic knee surgery earlier this morning on the 15th of September. And it was a success, blah, blah, blah. No setbacks, should be, he probably shouldn't have a setback. It's probably a clean procedure. Just go in, they clean it out, no big deal, right? Giovanni Bernard for the next 3 weeks, in my opinion, is going to be a for sure start. This Bengals offense, I mean, they look good. They're able to score in bunches, right? In that first half against the Ravens, they came out and they just lit them up. Second half, they didn't really show up, right? There was no production. They scored 6 points in the second half. The Ravens were finally able to adjust. I don't think that the Bengals will be able to score 28 points a half on any team, going forward. I think that they got hot early, and AJ Green and Andy Dalton were just lighting them up. But Giovanni Bernard, I think there was a stat, right, that I saw where it said that Giovanni Bernard, when he's the only back in the backfield when Jeremy Hill used to be injured, and Giovanni Bernard is given 20-plus touches, he is guaranteed double-digit points in non-PPR leagues. So imagine with Giovanni Bernard's capabilities in the PPR passing game, he should be a good start for you. If he's not on your team, probably go put in a waiver for him. I would rather have Giovanni Bernard in the next couple weeks instead of Javoris Allen. That's just me. Don't murder me, but that's it. Anyway, I want to thank everybody for watching. If you haven't and you enjoy this content, please subscribe to my YouTube channel for more. I'll probably keep you guys updated. If anything new comes out tomorrow morning, I'll probably put out a video. Other than that, good luck this weekend. Hopefully everything goes well. Hopefully you don't have tens of thousands of questions for me. But other than that, have fun. And don't forget, it's fantasy football. It's not life and death. And don't freak out if you lose, okay? See you guys.